So great to see you again. Thank you for meeting with me virtually. I know that you're super busy. So let's jump in. As always, the culture in that fourth grade classroom is unmatched. Students were collaborating and they were very engaged in the classroom activity. It was also very clear, as usual, that they're familiar with the routines and procedures. Most relevant to this conversation, students know exactly what is expected of them when it comes to finding evidence. They know how they're supposed to cite it, how they're supposed to share it. They're very strong at it, which actually takes me to the highest leverage area that I'm observing right now in that classroom. So by the end of the lesson, students were expected to find the main idea and use supporting details to write a summary. You'll notice on the IPG that the scores are uh, pretty good, generally in the 3 and 4 range. Because of the portion that I observed, students were playing a bingo game answering text dependent questions, and they did a great job at that. However, while the questions were moving students into the direction of identifying main idea and writing a summary, the students and the class never actually got there. So they were supposed to find evidence to answer questions on their own, which was great, right? But all of the questions were low level on DOK and Bloom's. Even the questions that were phrased with different stems, um, they all remained in the recall level of questioning. So let's take a look, right? So we look here at this recall. They were primarily identifying information in the text. Now, they were citing evidence to support it, but they were not moving to this deeper level 3 and 4 that we want to get them to. Even questions that were disguised as like describe or explain, there was even one question that asked them how something will be classified. They actually weren't doing that heavy lifting, right? They were simply going in the text and finding the evidence that answered that question. In fact, they spent so much time on this that it impeded time to actually find the main idea and summarize. So I've identified some coaching next steps because these students are ready to go. I'd love to work with this teacher on. I'd love to work with this teacher on 2 to 3 of the key indicators. So the first one we're going to look at is core action 2A. So this is really focusing on meaningful and purposeful questioning. So I want to work with this teacher to pre-plan questions using that DOK or Blooms to tighten up the questions so that students are answering questions that are moving them towards identifying the main idea much quicker than what I observed, right? They know what a water strider looks like and sounds like and eats and all that, but how can we put that together quicker? How can the questions be compounded or a little bit more strategic so that we're able to eliminate 17 minutes of text dependent questions and actually get them into identifying the main idea and or writing? Very similar to the other indicator, 3B, which is really about productive struggle. There were 2 or 3 times that students had to make inferences and that students had the opportunity to share evidence that was stronger one than the other, but we're really missing a lot of that. We need more of that at this level of classroom, right? So I'd love to see them instead spending the majority of the classroom um, finding the main idea and discussing and arguing it, right? Or actually writing. Um, like they could grapple with main ideas that are either provided or main ideas that they develop themselves and work to strengthen it. That's the heavy lifting and the productive struggle that that level of classroom needs to be focused on instead of TDQ bingo, right? Fun, engaging, they were doing it, but they've mastered that. We need to, in order to hit all aspects of this standard, immediately up the rigor. Um, Perhaps the students can work in stations, right? Like, so whether or not they're leveled, they all seem to be able to find evidence at a strong level, right? But as we get into even deeper, more rich text, this text was had some complex syntax and had some advanced vocabulary. But as we get into something that's a little bit less straightforward, perhaps they work in stations. Maybe we have an evidence station, which is what the class focused on the entire time that I observed. There can be an actual main idea station, again, where some may be provided or some students are ready to write their own, but they're discussing it, they're arguing with it, debating it, why this word belongs and this one doesn't, right? How this might be objective and one is subjective. Then a summary writing station, if that's what the objective of that lesson in that class is, which it was. That's heavy, right? It's a lot in one class. So if we're going to do all of it, then maybe we work in stations, because an objective that's three parts like that, evidence, main idea, and summary, tells me that they've seen all of them before. There's also evidence in the video that they've done parts of them before. So if we're ready to combine them, we really need a text and TDQs that are going to move us there a lot quicker, a lot more strategically, and allow students to really experience rigor and critical thinking. Um, I'm certain that if we use these new strategies, that will get them there. They're more than ready than teacher led TDQs, even though they break apart on their own. And I want them really debating and arguing a text that is much richer, that allows them with more meaningful and purposeful questions that will allow them to arrive at the main idea in summary writing, either with guidance or on their own, because that's what the demands of the standards require. And they're 100% ready to tackle that. Thanks. So we'll stop there and then I'll see you again soon.